Hello guys, this is JNM, and perhaps you know the video use Booleans like a pro in Blender from Mr. Sorbias. Here you can see his channel, perhaps you know it already. In my opinion, it's really great and has amazing content. Check it out. This is his video use Booleans like a pro in Blender, in which he is creating this nice little hard surface object by using default Boolean modifiers and the add-on hardsurface. Now let's see how to do this with my Fast Carve add-on, but this is not a kind of I can do it better or faster. I just used this awesome video as an inspiration. I start with a Blender cube and assign a black, a bit rough metal material. And I have the Fast Carve add-on activated. This is the panel on the right. And then I press this button to enter the primitive mode. First I want to cut into the cube, so I change to polyline by pressing P and then to difference by pressing M. And then I draw a rectangle. By the way, this can be done now in the latest version by using the new primitive rectangle. Then I press Ctrl and left click to cut into the cube. Okay, then I switch to edit mode and edge selection. Select this edge and press Ctrl and B, then move the mouse wheel to add more segments to this bevel. Okay, the next step is to cut a hole into this part here. But before I do this, I will bevel the edges. So select these two edges, press Ctrl and B to add bevels, and the number of segments is the same as we used for the previous beveling, and this looks good to me. Now let's cut in some holes. I disable snapping, because then we have a bit more room to place these holes, because we are not bound to the grid, but instead of using the difference mode, I switch to create, and this mesh is created then that I will use for cutting for the difference operation. But I need two cuts. First I want to cut through the whole object. That's simple, I press difference and here we go. The other cut should be a bit larger, so I scale up the object a bit. And then I move it slightly into the object and again do a difference operation, but this time I don't apply immediately. You can call it a live Boolean, so that you can see how this will look like in the end when you apply it. I increase the scale a bit more and then bring the object upwards. And once I'm happy with the result, I apply the Boolean. Okay, as you know, we can symmetrize using Fast Carve, so I press Symmetrize X, and then we have the hole on the right side as well. Now the next step. On the left and on the right side, Mr. Sorbias added a kind of inner bevel. I will do this by cutting away a rectangular shape, again using the primitive mode and the polyline. For this operation I forgot to check apply immediately, so I apply it now manually and then remove the object. Alright, now I want to add this inner bevel, so I go to edit mode and select this edge, press Ctrl and B and add it again with the same number of segments. Then I symmetrize again for the x-axis. Okay, the next step is to add a kind of box to the object. I do this in primitive mode. Again, for the primitive I use the polyline and I pressed M to switch the mode to create. We can go with this shape, then I press Ctrl and left click to create the box. I scale this box down and after that I union it with the target object. Okay, go to object mode, then press union. And after that we can delete the object that we created in primitive mode. This looks quite nice. Now I will extrude the part at the back and scale it up to create a kind of metal plate there, so I press E for the selected face and then directly the enter key and then S to scale. Okay, then I will again extrude these faces in the direction of their normals. You can just press E and move the mouse. And now I want the top and the bottom face of this new shape that we extruded to align with the other shape. And that's quite simple. I select the face and then I check here in the snapping if I have increment snapping enabled. This means we are snapping to the grid. Then I press G and Z to move to align the faces. Okay, now I have to change a little bit the geometry because we have some edges here that would prevent a clean Boolean operation for these areas. So I use the knife tool and add new edges like this. And then I select the other ones in edge selection mode and dissolve them. Now we can execute Boolean operations here in the corners. But before I do this, I symmetrize again so that we have the edges on the other side as well. You can see that it is mirrored here in edit mode. And what I also do is to add two bevels so that we have round corners. This should also be done before we cut into the mesh. And after that, I symmetrize again. Then I go to edit mode to see how the topology looks like. And we can get rid of this edge loop in the middle because it would also interfere with Booleans. So I select and dissolve this, and now we have more possibilities to add Booleans, difference operations, for example cut out a rectangular shape in the center of the back part. So go to object mode and paint this rectangle using polylines. And I have the bool mode set to create so that a box will be created. That I scale down, then move it to the position where I want to cut into the object. And then I press the button difference. Okay, this looks good, and it doesn't seem that we have any artifacts, and this is because we created a topology. With that we can execute clean Booleans. I add another bevel here, add these edges, and then we can move on to the next Boolean. We have to cut out a box in this area here. And to do this I will again draw a rectangle in primitive mode with snapping enabled. Like this, a box is created that I scale down again. And then I use difference as before to cut this shape into the mesh. Okay, next step is to cut 3 holes into the sides of the object. And for this I will create a cylinder also in primitive mode. I switch to circle and create. Then I draw the circle and press Ctrl left click. And the cylinder is created. And what I will do now is I will position it and then use the array modifier to get 3 cylinders that I will cut into the mesh. I open the modifiers panel and add an array modifier. And for this I set the relative offset for the y-axis to a value of about 2. 1.6 looks good, and then I increase the count to 3. Then I press difference and delete the cylinders. And this is the result. Okay, we are almost done. The last thing that I would like to do is to cut holes into the back part. They should look like the ones that we added to the part at the front. But I want to use a different method. I add a circle and then I extrude it so that I create an object that I can reuse to cut out the holes. I go to edit mode, press E to extrude, constrain to the y-axis. Then I extrude the circle again and scale it up. And after that extrude one more time in Y direction. Then I press F to fill, and this is basically the shape that I will use to cut the holes at the corners. It needs to be a bit larger, so I select the last edge loop and move it along the y-axis. And this object I move now into the mesh and apply a difference operation, but I don't apply immediately so that I can see the result in a live Boolean. And then I move the shape till I'm happy with the result, and after that I press apply Boolean. Okay, as I said, we can reuse the object. I move it down, and then I do the same for the other corner. Great, I apply, then I delete the object. And to have the holes on the other side as well, just press symmetrize for the x-axis. Okay, looks pretty good. Now let's have a look at the reference. There is one part missing at the front, a kind of box. And I will again add a primitive with the polyline and snapping enabled, and the mode I set to create, so that a new box is created that we will scale and union with the mesh. Okay, here it is. Now I scale it down and move it to the position where I would like to add it. To find the exact shape, I move the faces in edit mode. And at the front I will add a bevel. So I switch to edge selection, select this edge at the front, but be careful because when I add the bevel now it looks strange, and this is because we scaled the object in object mode. So you have to apply the scale to be able to add a clean bevel. Alright, now I go to object mode again and press union. Then it is joined with the target and I can delete the object. Okay, now let's create two slice operations, one at the front. I draw again a rectangle in primitive mode, then press Ctrl and left click to create a box. Bring this a bit more into the mesh, and then I press the slice button. I press delete to delete the box. And here you can see the new object that is created by slicing. I assign a different material to this, a more shiny silver metal. And then I select the original object to create a new slice at the back. The procedure is the same. I create a primitive, but for this primitive, before I create the box, I press G to move the shape a bit to the right. I disable snapping so that I'm not bound to the grid. Then I move it a bit to the left, press Ctrl and left click to create the box, and then slice again. For this new object I also assign the metal material, and then I select all the objects that we created and press Ctrl and J to join them. And in the end, to make it look awesome, I press bevel object to add nice bevels and smooth shading to the object. Okay guys, that's it. It isn't identical to the model created by Mr. Sorbias, but as I said, it is just a reference from an artist and a channel that I really like. And if you like this channel, then don't forget to subscribe. The Fast Carve add-on can be downloaded for free from my GitHub page. The link is added to the description. If you want to support the development of the add-on and my channel, consider being my patron. This would really help a lot. Thanks for watching guys, thanks for your support, and I'll see you on JNM.